All right, our next speaker is someone committed to the responsibility of city management. Upon his swearing in 2013, Mayor Garcetti of Los Angeles declared his commitment to getting back to the basics. I was there when you gave your inauguration speech. He talked about a commitment of getting back to the basics. He's demonstrated an understanding of the challenges approaching cities and the methods which we must use to address them. As part of the movement, he has unveiled a sustainable city plan to encourage environmentally sound practices amidst California's water crisis, policing reforms to create a safe and unified city, and a call to restore pride and excellence to public service. I am thrilled that our champion is not only a photographer, which he showed his skills off to the side, a great leader amongst mayors. Let's give it up for Mayor Garcetti.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you to my dear friend, Kevin Johnson, and his extraordinary leadership. I've seen it not just nationally in this organization, but up close. We went through a little traumatic moment in Los Angeles when we had a sports owner who showed us that racism was alive and well in this country. And to have a mayor who was also a former great basketball player alongside me when we were together making history to change that ownership in Los Angeles, I will never forget that. He's been a great man and a great leader for this organization. Give it up for Kevin Johnson one more time. And let me also we just saw previously the video and the award given to really that man who is the Dean of all mayors, Joe Riley. And I want to note his significant absence here. I know he was supposed to be here to accept the award in person, but instead he's at home taking care of Charleston. How many of us have had those sleepless nights where we worry that that could happen in our city? How many deaths do we see? How many tragedies are we the channel for? And he is pastoring, he is the civic pastor not just of Charleston today, but of America. And the attack on Mother Emanuel was an attack on all of us, and we are with Joe right now, and I'm going to try to use my time to live up to his spirit of innovation, and I'm so pleased that we were able to give him a standing ovation and thank him for extraordinary service. He is the archetype we look up to and we want to live to. So they say there's no such thing as a free lunch. And today I want you, as you're digesting your lunch, it's the third day, you're like, it's another speaker, another mayor, I'm actually going to give you something for free today. And what I'm going to give you for free is something that I hope will transform how you can lead as mayors and position yourself squarely at the front end of pushing your agenda even more aggressively. I'm talking to you today about how we can use data to lead. It's a very exciting time, I think, for all of us to be mayor in this country. Historically, we see government, though, has been way behind when it comes to technology. We change in the era of FaceTime and Amazon, how we buy, how we communicate, how we do all sorts of things. And government has usually been years, decades behind how real people are living. But today we're catching up. And we're catching up because we know as mayors it's necessary to manage our cities with the most up-to-minute information, useful information, to push our leaders at the bureaucratic level and our cities to be inspired to solve those everyday challenges that we have. You know, people demand today a tech-fluent government, and people demand today tech-fluent mayors. So I'm here to try to help. And this isn't just something important for leadership. For all of our cities to develop economically, it is critical for us to not only show that we are fluent in technology, but the decisions made by those companies that will locate jobs in our cities or elsewhere depend on whether they see a tech-savvy government willing to work with them. So let me start with a case study of my own city, the City of Angels. This picture, I love the Bay Area. I hope you come up here frequently. I want to thank Mayor Lee for being a great host. But if you ever find a foggy day up here, come south, and you can see the beautiful weather that we have every single day in Los Angeles. And LA is famous for everything from Hollywood. It is an American calling card to the world. From Hollywood to the port of Los Angeles and Long Beach, which is responsible for 43% of the nation's seaborne trade, to the creativity that we see, whether it's a new space program like SpaceX, or car designers from around the world who come to our city to find that cutting-edge design. LA is an important American city. But I have to say, despite that outside of City Hall, inside City Hall, we are technologically stuck in the last century. Doing the smallest things, like when I tried to move our email to the cloud, It was fought tooth and nail. People zealously defended our computer servers that we had in-house that were literally dripping battery acid, and while we have beautiful beaches, this was not as pretty. And it wasn't just that we were behind in technology, in our hardware and our software, but the methods we were employing and using technology for were just as outdated. So my first lesson today is tech is not an end. Tech is a means to an end. We know what the ends are: to improve the quality of life, the livability, the environmental conditions, the economic opportunities, the health of our citizens. But we see today, it's kind of like we have maybe the best equipment sometimes. We can have an iPhone 6, but with no good apps, it means nothing. And so when I looked at my city, I realized we were way behind. I started with my general managers, and I re-interviewed all of them. In Los Angeles, we have a strong mayor system where I can hire and fire my general managers, and I had them all re-audition for their jobs. And I said to them, many of them, I'm not sure how to judge you because you've never said what you're going to do, let alone say how we can measure it, so I'm not sure what progress you've made. You're nice people, I've worked with you as a city council member, but I expect you to begin to start using data in an appropriate way. And ironically in LA, we were collecting huge troves of data. For instance, we have the most robust traffic sensor network in the world, the legacy of the 1984 Olympics. But we weren't using that data to try to solve the worst traffic in America, which is in Los Angeles. In fact, we weren't even keeping the data sometimes year to year. But things are changing. I've been mayor for 23 months, and in just 2 years, since December 2014, we were ranked the #1 digital city in America. We were ranked the #1, going from unranked to #1 in open data, in terms of sharing our data sets and collecting the things that matter. And for 2 years in a row, we have hosted the biggest civic hackathon in the nation. So how did we come so far so fast? So before we delve in, I know data can be scary. Who's a technophobe out there? It's okay. Who's a Luddite? There's a couple of you. Oh, good. Everybody loves it, so you're still here for lunch. Well, those of you who are scared about data, it can be overwhelming. The quantity of data that we get right now is so much. We're not sure. Everybody tells you you have to use data as a mayor, but you're not sure exactly what that means. But I think you need to recognize first that it's not a question of if you're going to use data, it is when and how. So today I have 3 core rules about data to share with you. First is that you have to measure data. Second, once you have measured it, you have to organize it, and I have a way I hope that you can helpfully find a way to organize it for yourselves as mayors to use that data to lead. And third, you can't keep it to yourself. You have to share the data. So let's go to the first point. You have to measure data. Now, when I told my general managers that, they all started just counting random things. And bad data is almost worse than no data. We don't want to measure just outputs. We want to measure outcomes. Case in point, when I looked at our job centers, we were counting the number of people that went into the job centers. And that was the metric that we were counting. We didn't count actually how many people got jobs at the job centers, the quality of those jobs, whether they retained the jobs. And so as I worked with general managers, I said, I don't care what data you collect, but I want to sit down and know that it's useful. And we all know that our general managers and department heads are very good at managing up. They're going to tell you the things that they want to hear. Even we do that as politicians. You know, the old under-promise, over-deliver. Like a mayor announces that crime is down 1%, which surpasses their goal of 0%. Well, those days are long gone. And it's important for us to find meaningful data, and a second sub-lesson of that is make sure that that data, even when it's bad news, you own. Because the trust and transparency you will establish, whether it's with your general managers, I'm not going to fire you because you give me bad news. I expect you to tell me what that bad news is so we can fix it together. So I can see, for instance, if I was just using the old way, Los Angeles was the safest in terms of Part 1 crime per capita last year that it's been since 1949. But if I stopped it there, I wouldn't have looked deeper to see that in some neighborhoods we saw a 26% spike in violent crime. I said, we're going to own that and we're going to fix it. So when we measure the data that matters, we can make policy based on information rather than impressions. So collect data and collect good data. Second, organize it. As mayor, you know, remember Mayor Koch used to go around and ask people, how am I doing on the street? Well, today, you need to still do that as mayors. But I also want to wake up and ask my smartphone, how am I doing? It has become that portal to tell you what those metrics are that are important to you. Where are you on homelessness? Where are you on jobs? Where are you on reducing carbon emissions? Where are you on the things that matter to you? So if my goal is to reduce the homeless, to create more jobs, to be able to radically reduce my city's carbon emissions, I want to see how I am doing right now. Before I was elected, I went to a mayor who I knew who had put data on a dashboard. I was elected, not yet sworn in, and I visited Mike Bloomberg. Many of you have seen this famous bullpen where he broke down the silos of an office by himself, put him squarely in the middle of all his fellow staff. But if you look up here, just right there, you'll see what was one of the first American mayoral dashboards, maybe one of the first in the world. And I said, that's really impressive, Mayor Bloomberg. You can see the call wait time to your 311, the traffic conditions. How much that cost you to build? And he said $15 million, which for us, the equivalent is about $500. But for Mayor Bloomberg, he might not have felt $15 million being spent, but you and I probably don't have that lying around. So I asked somebody, our first chief data officer, who I hired in the city of Los Angeles, Mr. Abi Numani, who's behind the curtain over there, and he built me a dashboard for myself that cost $9, 3 days, and a lot of his own sweat and tears. And I asked him to design a dashboard that fit my specifications, something easy to navigate, something that is easy to update, something that's mobile, which was different than what Mayor Bloomberg had, and best of all, affordable. So we built a back end that could be updated by anyone who's familiar with spreadsheets. It's really easy. You ever seen a spreadsheet? You can have your own dashboard. And it has a top sheet with interactive graphics that illustrate changes with shape and color. So I'm going to take my phone right now and show you the dashboard. So over here on the right, you can see this is kind of our top sheet. I can see everything from job growth to right here. See, these are building permits on a map of Los Angeles. I can actually go down and zoom in at the neighborhood level and see where building permits are being pulled and wonder through that heat map, well, here's certain areas of town where there's no economic activity. What can we do to get that? You can actually see what they are right there, the individual permits themselves. The wait time at our utility, which we have a municipal utility, was 40 minutes when I came in, 40 minutes to get help on your electricity bill. Now it's down under 5 minutes because I could look at this every single day and tell our general manager, what are we doing to get that down? I can look at our fire department. We broke up I want to get response times down for our emergency services. So we broke down the 911 processing time, second, the turnout time, the time it takes for a firefighter or paramedic to get on their rig, and then the travel time. And as you can see, we're owning the bad news. If it's a red dial, that means we have not hit our target. Right up here, you can see our target is 60 seconds to get that 911 call passed on, and we're above that right now at 61 seconds, whereas our turnout time, which is the time it takes to actually roll out, is below our 80-second goal at about 73 seconds, and so on and so forth. Now, that's just the information on my main sheet. I have that for economic development, for public safety. But the other thing you can do once you have this template is you can set up something on specific focus areas. So I have some here, poverty, drought, which is a pretty big thing around here. But let me show you the homelessness one. So for homelessness in my city, we have, unfortunately, Los Angeles is the homeless capital of America, a combination of good weather and bad public policy over many years. But I've accepted the First Lady's challenge to end veterans' homelessness in Los Angeles. So I can see how many veterans we're housing a month. And like I said, you can go and actually own the bad news. We're housing more homeless veterans in the country than we think per month now than any other city that's taken all the other cities combined. It's just such a huge problem we have in LA. But it's only 221 a month. If I'm going to get to the goal of ending it by the end of the year, I have to be at 283. When I looked at that last week, I said, I got to get to DC, got on a plane, sat down with Sean Donovan, the director of the Office of Management and Budget, saying, we need more money, you need our help, we need yours. And it's the kind of thing that's helped me manage. So now that you've organized your data and hopefully put it in a dashboard, and I'll come back to that in a second, the most important, or one of equally important thing, is to make sure you don't keep it yourself. You have to share your data. Technology, like city government, needs to be quite open. And when I got to City Hall, I realized that there was 4 or 5 doors between the street and my office. Kind of reminded me of this. So, with all due respect, it's time to get smart. And it's time for us to open up. Thank you, one guy got it over there. And it's time for us, 2 people, give them an extra iPad. It is time for us to open up the doors of government and open up the doors of data. So for direct democracy, when we open up our data to our constituents, we have the ultimate force multiplier. In my town, it's 4 million people who can actually participate in solving the problems that we have, getting them involved in voting, getting them involved in phoning, signing petitions. Nearly 2/3 of Americans own smartphones, and soon will be much more. They can go right now, not my exact dashboard, but they can find all of this data online. It's one of the things that took us from unranked to #1 in the country. And they can be a part of solving the problem. We now have that partnership with companies, too. For instance, take Waze. The traffic app Waze, we're the #1 users in the country and #2 in the world because, again, Los Angeles has a lot of traffic. This helps you figure out the quickest route to get from point A to point B. But now we're sharing data between Waze and the city of Los Angeles. So, for instance, if someone spots a pothole on the road or they see a tree branch that's down, they don't have to just see that traffic is bad. They can tell the city what it is, and we can roll somebody out to fix that pothole or get that tree branch off the road within minutes instead of waiting hours. The collaboration even addresses crime. If Waze users in Los Angeles see a hit-and-run crime, they can actually enter it into the app. We get that information, and we can go after that person. And data sharing is a two-way street. Waze has agreed to push out information from the city. If we have Amber Alerts, 1.3 million users can instantly see that as they are driving through the city and hopefully find that person and maybe even be the difference between life and death. We also rolled out something called Pulse Point, which some of you may use in your towns. It's an app that uses our city's data. 911 calls immediately go into there. In fact, so quick it's even faster than the phone sometimes, and firefighters are using this to roll out before they get the official notification in their stations. But it notifies users of a nearby cardiac emergency. And so in the 3.5, 4 minutes it takes for us to get an ambulance to somebody, there might be somebody trained in CPR or a defibrillator where they work, next door to where they live, and that person can help save a life right there in their own town. So these partnerships use existing platforms. One thing I'd say to you is don't try to come up with the killer civic app. Nobody's going to download it, nobody's going to use it. But if you come to them where they already are, on Waze, using Google now, things that we're using right now where we can push that data where people already live, then you will engage them. And then the final step of engaging them with opening it up is give them the data to be able to come up with their solutions themselves. As I mentioned, we've been holding civic hackathons, like many of you have, now the biggest in the country in LA. And hackers aren't always guys in hoodies looking to steal your data. They're actually innovative students, innovative programmers, people who want to solve civic problems, but maybe they don't want to clean up a river, but they want to sit around and code and help something happen. Last year, we had an issue around homelessness, and that became the theme of our hackathon. And a team of 3 teenagers took home the top prize after creating an app to efficiently deliver supplies to homeless shelters. And what's interesting is the winners told us that we weren't collecting the data that they need to make it even more efficient, and so we began to collect that data. So when it's a two-way street, people will tell you what you need to start collecting as data as well, and that will become a part of government as well. So I said there's no such thing as a free lunch. There is today. So here's the final and best part of my pitch today. I'm offering the dashboard template that we have developed to all of you for free. All you need to do is tell your people what you want to count, and it can look as pretty, it can look as current, it can look as accountable as what you've just seen here today. So if you go to lamayor.org/dashboard, you can sign up. There's a form right there. Do it this week, and we'll make sure that your folks get that, and you can start doing that. At a community meeting, you can pull out when somebody has a question and give them that answer. You can be in a meeting with your general managers and department heads and ask them why there's still not progress in that area that you've talked to them, and you know that your data is up to date. And I hope that this will inspire you to open up data in your city. You'll make improvements to the dashboards and tell us what we can do even better and share that back and forth through the U.S. Conference of Mayors. Because relentless innovation should be the hallmark of who we are and measure our managerial success. So don't fear data, embrace it and collect it. Don't just collect useless data, develop helpful data. And don't be a data Scrooge. Share it with others. And I know that you will accelerate the way that cities and mayors are already changing America. Thank you so much.
Mayor Garcetti put our theme of 3.0 in perspective, and this is exactly, mayors, what we've been talking about. So, Mayor, thanks for offering us all mayors an opportunity. I'm sure we're all going to follow up with that tremendous opportunity. Let's give Mayor Garcetti another round of applause.